Hello and welcome to Crux Investor. We caught up earlier today with Mark Chalmers, CEO of Energy Fuels. Wanted to catch up with regard to the sustainability report that they put out just for Christmas, and also the refreshed ATM. And if you want our thoughts on that conversation, those topics and the company itself, and of course what they're doing in the rare earth space, you can find that at cruxinvestor.com/club. Where you can also find detailed company reports. There's commentary from experts from around the world on a variety of commodities and companies, which are exclusive to the club. There's also training videos on there to help you get a little bit better at doing diligence on your investments. Plus there's summaries of other interviews that we've done to save you a lot of time. And of course there's a thriving community of investors sharing their thoughts and ideas with each other in a nice safe environment free from trolling and abuse. And isn't that a nice idea? So go to cruxinvestor.com/club. We'd also love your feedback and thoughts. So do give us a like, first of all. And if you could leave your comments below, if you want to see what we talked about today with Mark, take a look in the description. Mr. Mark Chalmers, how are you doing, sir?
Excellent, Matt. How are you?
Not too bad, not too bad. Now, we didn't speak that long ago, but I was keen to pick up the phone because your share price has gone nuts and I want to talk to you.
Well, it has gone nuts. And yeah, look at it. It's been a very interesting few weeks. I think it was about 2 or 3 weeks ago that we last chatted, and I think we were probably in the threes somewhere, mid threes, and we're now north of $4. So yeah, we're very pleased with the reception that we're getting for what we're doing on this critical minerals hub.
Well, there you go. I think, and again, part of the reason I want to speak to you, I want to sort of understand this story, because you laid out some of the stepping stones for us at the end of last year, some of those things that you were looking at, and I know it's only been a few weeks, but you're having conversations with some partners. You're having conversations with the US government. You're seeing what's happening in the marketplace, and you've talked to us about your ambitions with regards to tackling this kind of critical minerals hub, which I think people are talking about. How have your plans evolved, really? And have you yet got a plan or any guidance for what's going to happen this year?
It's evolving very quickly. I mean, you're aware that we've got this long history as a uranium producer, the largest producer in the United States. We've got inventories. We've got the only primary vanadium plant, and we produce vanadium. So as we move into the rare earths, this whole concept of how we're packaging it up, the critical mineral hub, I don't know how I can get any more excited about that, man. It's necessary. The government recognizes it. I think investors recognize it. It really opens up a really broad opportunity for our company and our investors.
Right. But so how do you go about planning this? Okay, because you've got to be careful here. Your shareholders have bought into you as a uranium company. Okay, there's some vanadium component there too. I mean, are you leaving that behind? Or are you going to focus just on the rare earths component?
No, we're not leaving it behind by any stretch of the imagination. We're just adding to it, and the fact that the rare earths contain material quantities of uranium that we can recover, they just fit together perfectly. So we're just expanding the horizons here, and again, I think it's all setting the stage on how valuable our company, all our assets are, but particularly the White Mesa Mill and the flexibility of what it can do. Recently, we released our sustainability report, and if anyone hasn't seen that or read that, I would ask them to do so, because it shows just how powerful Energy Fuels is when it comes to improving the environment and recycling a lot of materials that wouldn't be recycled otherwise. So please take a look at that. If you haven't, it's on our website.
No, I read it. We'll put a link to it below in the description, because I did read it. I was impressed. Well, what kind of got me about it was the way that people perceive uranium companies. I think, you have detractors in the marketplace. I think uranium companies come across this, nuclear comes across this, but this desire to be seen as a part of the green economy, the green solution, okay? But you've taken it a step further with that report. I mean, why did you commission it?
Well, it's very common now for companies, particularly as they get larger, to be doing sustainability reports. We're also focusing on trying to reimagine the vision of Energy Fuels. and that we are a green job creator and can do so much more for the environment and reducing carbon emissions. So this entrance into the rare earths has helped us again broaden that base. And I think that the realization is people understand to reduce carbon emissions, you need rare earths, you need uranium and baseload energy, and you also need to recycle. So the sustainability report was just sort of a first step. But I say that our shareholders and the market as a whole should look at a new reimagined, evolving company, Energy Fuels, going forward. And as I said, I cannot be more excited than I am about where I believe we're taking the company.
Okay, reimagining. I like it when companies reimagine, or I think Elon Musk's term. He says you got to get back to first principles. So, what is it that you think you can be? What are you trying to be?
I think again, I agree with you, Matt. That people have this. When they think about uranium, they think about industrial facilities, which they are industrial facilities, but they don't think of it in the context of really the good that you're doing. They just see industrial. So it's my goal that we roll out a greener, cleaner look to the company. We're in the early stages of it. It will take us some time, but we're still not running away from the uranium business at all, because that's all part of the plan. And we've got all the facilities and deposits and projects that you know of. But I think that the time is right to people to better understand the green element of the things that we do. Right.
So can that be done? Because if I look at, in fact, I've had conversations with people like Jack Lifton and John Hackaway, who are rare earths experts. They're credible. Their track record is hard to challenge on that front. And they say that you guys are the one possible company that could put this together, because others who have tried it aren't able to manage and control the whole of the supply chain, which means there's a dependence on China for some component of it, which then that means that the pricing element, the control around the pricing element falls over, funding falls over. So you've got a few challenges ahead of you as far as I can see. You've got to get the right partners on board, first of all, to be able to deliver that entire supply chain. And you've got to get the US government on board. Are you going to be able to do those things, or is this just wishful thinking?
It's not wishful thinking. You've got to have a vision of where you're going here. And we will build this step by step. And I think that, our announcement in April that we're getting into the rare earth business, the people that have joined the initiative in terms of advising me, with decades of experience. And then you saw the Chemours agreement that we signed up. We are focusing on other supply agreements, both upstream and downstream. And it is my goal that investors will see more of those agreements be signed up. And the picture starts looking a lot more clear when you see that we are building this thing up from really first principles, in a very quick and very effective way, and how we're trying to move forward in this whole rare earth space. As I've told you, Matt, what we're doing is effectively the same thing that CNNC and the Chinese have been doing for the last few years, with the focus on monazite, the highest grade, lowest cost feed material for producing rare earths. We just are focused on doing it in a different way. I mean, we're in the United States. We're operating at Western practices. We've got state-of-the-art facilities for handling our tailings, and so we're going to look at our version of how we're doing this. So again, it looks let's take it a step at a time. But I think we've made huge progress. Huge progress. I think we've surprised the rare earth industry, not just in North America, but the entire world, at how we've moved and how purposefully we've moved with the steps we've made in the last 10 months.
Okay, but I do buy that, because you have moved extremely quickly and brought some partners on board, which a lot of people have heard of, like NEO, etc. But here's the other bit that people are going to be, who are new to this, are going to be looking in and thinking and going, hang on, if I look at these huge lakes of dirty pollution in China, where they've been producing rare earths, but at a cost, how can you assure them that you're going to be able to process this monazite for, hunting down the NdPr component of it in a green way? But talking green and being green are two different things. Are you going to be able to deliver?
First of all, our facility is located in the United States. It's regulated by the state of Utah. It has a long history, a very clean track record of the way we've operated for the last 40 years. We're very proud of that. It has these state-of-the-art disposal cells, the RCRA cells, triple line, designed for 1,000 years. And look, we're looking at how we can kind of rebadge that in a more maybe better optical way. I don't think that maybe over the last 30, 40 years, I think that the uranium industry and the nuclear industry hasn't necessarily had the right optics. And the one vision that I want to leave with shareholders and people watching this video is, if you look at the new small modular reactors and you look at the buildings that they're talking about, they're very modern and they're very clean, and they just don't look industrial like they used to. So I think that people are realizing that the aesthetics of how you package and present what you're doing is an important element, because people look at industrial facilities and they say, well, it's just an industrial facility and it might be bad. Not necessarily bad, it's just the vision of it that it leaves sometimes. So look, it's early days. Watch this space. We'll be seeing how we can go forward here on all fronts in a very holistic way, but also hopefully a very pleasing vision for the future of creating green jobs and reducing carbon emissions.
Okay, you announced an agreement with Chemours on some monazite. It was a good solid. It was a 3-year agreement, I believe. What does that look like going forward? How do you grow this thing? I'm sorry to focus on the rare earths component, because I know the uranium market is going crazy at the moment. I think the expectations, across the board, because the supply-demand story are absolutely there. But we've talked about that previously, and we know how you're positioning yourself, and I'm sure we can talk about it again. But just today, on the rare earths component, where do you see, or do you see your ability to actually grow and get more and bigger deals with people like Chemours?
Yeah, that's the plan. We need to scale this up. The Chemours deal is a 3-year deal. It's relatively small quantities, but I believe Chemours thinks that they can flex this up maybe 2.5 times over time. It is a very, very good first step. It allows us to basically test out the mill as we went from the laboratory scale to the 1-ton scale. Now we're kind of moving up to about 20-ton scale, and early in the new year, we're going up to 500 tons or so. So we're able to scale it up with in a very controlled way, so that we can better understand things like reagent consumption and recoveries. But we plan for other feed, and we need other feed. And when we made the announcement with Chemours, there are other people that are phoning us up or sending us emails and saying, hey, would you consider our monazite? And we're looking at these things as we are looking at other steps of the supply chain, at least into separation, some of these other steps that we don't have those capabilities right now. So it's, as I said, it's a very similar, the Chinese don't have the monazite mines. They basically opened for business and people showed up. And I think they had somewhere in the order of about 50,000 tons in 2020. I don't know the exact number. We're trying to see what sources of monazite are out there. And as I said, it's a known fact that monazite, the heavy mineral sands material with the uranium in it. And I want to emphasize, we recover the uranium. This is a uranium ore for us. With this material, It is some of the best sources of rare earths out there in the world, and that is a known fact. So we think that in itself is a substantial advantage, and also considering the fact that White Mesa is fully constructed, operable, permitted to handle these materials, and it's ready to go right now.
It's interesting to me because we've spoken to a few fund managers looking at you a little bit more closely now, and they're comparing you to the Lynases and the Mountain Passes, or MP as it is now, in terms of what they think you could be. But to do that, you're going to need to, say, address the volume of contracts, the volume of feed with monazite presumably coming in here. But you're also going to need to demonstrate not just the extraction technology, but the processing technology and further along that supply chain. What are you doing about that?
Well, we're aligning with people with the long history and skill sets to take these next steps. We've mentioned, with our relationship with Neil and Constantine and his team and Jack Lifton and Brock O'Kelly, we are looking at the next steps of separation with some of the world experts on that front. So when I've said this before, if people say we don't have the expertise to do this or don't have the knowledge, that's baloney. We do, and we're securing that. We know what we don't know, and I've said this many times to you on your show here. I think that what we're packaging ourselves, that we're moving smartly, we're moving purposefully. We've got the right people aligned. We've got the right facility in the right place, and we're looking at the right sources of material to get the best outcome possible, the lowest cost outcome possible, and to be as world competitive as we can be. And I don't think anybody can challenge us on the direction we're going in that regard. We still have work to do. Hopefully people are watching each of these moves we make because they're very purposeful, very focused for a specific reason. And it is our goal to be a significant world producer in the order of magnitude of the Lynases and the MPs in due course.
Right. Okay. I know that. So thank you. I know you've got the Brains Trust involved here. You've got the people that you need with the expertise and not just the experience, but the reputations to deliver that. And you're going to need some money to do that. And I noticed, again, over a Christmas period, you refreshed the ATM. So why did you do that? Why then? And what are the terms?
Nothing comes for free, Matt. And, you're very aware that we like to hold around $40-45 million of cash or working capital at all times to give us the capacity we need to do all these things that we're planning to do. And I look at the ATM as maintenance capital, just to kind of keep that cash balance in that $40-45 million range. The beauty of the ATM is you don't have to use it, or you can use it when you want to use it. It's got lower fees. Typically, fees are a couple percent rather than doing a traditional financing where they're going to charge you at least 6% in fees and perhaps a discount in warrants. So it's substantially lower cost than traditional financing methods. Now, I know there's people that don't like the ATM, but as I said, I view the ATM as a maintenance capital instrument, and we refreshed it for $35 million. And so that gives us the capability. One of the problems, if you don't have the ability to capitalize on things like raising capital at the right time, you miss the opportunities. And as I said, that was refreshed. It's in place. If you look at it, our current market caps, it represents 6-7%. If you completely exhausted it at one time, we're not going to completely exhaust it at one time. And it's very effective. So, but it costs money to do things like go into the rare earth space, and we're not going into it casually. We're not going into it with large capital expenditures yet, but we are going to make sure we have the funds to grow this opportunity with our uranium capabilities and our vanadium capabilities, and we'll grow it in a way that is more cost effective than others that don't have facilities that we have.
Okay. I know the first rule of Fight Club is you don't talk about Fight Club, but I'm intrigued by the relationships you have with the US government, the conversations you've had off the back of the 232 discussions around for uranium. Those relationships are still there. What would the US government want to see in place? What involvement will they have? And can the US as a whole, I know you're talking about being the US critical minerals hub, can the US do an end-to-end solution for rare earths?
Yeah. Well, the answer to the last of your question, I think the U.S. can reestablish its abilities to produce rare earths quicker, faster, and lower costs than people think, and that is that's my belief. Does that mean it happens overnight? No, but I think we can do it quicker than some people think. So that's our main focus. When it comes to the government, yes, we have a lot of relationships in D.C., particularly through that Section 232 and the Uranium Nuclear Fuel Working Group process. Many of those people also have a big focus on the rare earths. So if you go back a couple of years, we weren't focusing on rare earths. So a lot of these people now understanding the capability of White Mesa, now that we've opened it up for other critical materials, they're very excited about that. So I think it's again, something we will build on, but we're going to build on it by doing what we say we're going to do. We're doers. We're not promoters. I've been doing this, at least the uranium business, Matt, as you know, for 45 years. I have done projects all over the world, in Africa, Australia, Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, United States, in situ, conventional, byproduct. So we're doers, and I'm very, very excited about the team we have around us, both internally and externally, how we're positioning, our balance sheet, and our ability to move forward quickly and smartly, as I said earlier.
Okay. So I'll ask it more simply, is this something that the US government wants to see in place?
Yes, it is something they want to see in place. The thing and we're doing, certainly our relationships with the U.S. government. We did this initial study for the coal-based resources rare earth project that we submitted our report on that. Incidentally, just at the end of the year, there's another phase of that that's coming up. We'll see if we get awarded that or not. I think we have a reasonable chance because I think we prepared a very well thought out and technical document in that regard. And the U.S. government does want to reduce dependency on critical materials. But at the same time, when you deal with the United States government, you kind of have to move at their speed. We're probably moving quicker than that, but we're certainly going to be open for any support that we get with the U.S. government or other countries that are partnering with the United States government to reduce dependency on critical materials. And that includes countries like Canada and Australia and Europe. So as I said, let's take it a step at a time. But 2021 should be a very exciting year for us as a company. And as I've said before, I don't think there are any peers of Energy Fuels. There's nobody that's doing the uranium and the rare earths and the vanadium and some of the recycling that we do, or the land cleanup. So there is no peer group for what we're doing. And again, this is where we're really going down some sort of uncharted waters here. I think the Chinese are the closest to that, but we'll be doing it our way in the United States of America.
Mark, I love the reimagining of what it is that you are, what you're going to be. I look forward to hearing the story throughout the year and seeing you deliver on what you say you're going to deliver. Appreciate your time today. We'll speak again soon.
Thank you, Matt, and I look forward to our next chat.